I am Giovanni Orsina, the Deputy Director of the LUISS School of Government, that is among the organizers of this international conference. And so I am here basically to welcome you also on behalf of the Director of the School of Government, Sergio Fabbrini, who is out of Italy at the moment, and the President of the School of Government, Professor Marc Lazare, who is also in Paris at the moment. The School of Government was born a few years ago with the aim, it's a rather young institution, with the aim of helping to form the new public ruling elite in Italy with a very strong international opening. The Italian problem of the public elites in Italy is a very serious problem, and it's also widely recognized, but not very many institutions have tried to fulfill this task. And the LUISS School of Government is the most recent one, organizing a number of masters, both Italian and international masters, exactly with the aim of renewing the Italian public elite and, of course, also contributing to the renewal of the European public elite. Given that we have got this task, this is our institutional task, of course we are extremely interested in all the changes that are happening in the, not only in the Italian and the European public sphere, but of course also on a global level. We want to be, and we are, following the state of the art of the research, trying to understand what is going on in the changes in institutional and political and public changes, as I said, not only in Italy, but also more widely in Europe and in the world. This is the reason why the School of Government is particularly glad of the organization of this international conference that is actually taking us to one of the, let's say, a recent development, a development that is really lies at the heart of the changing nature of the European public sphere. I'm personally not competent in this, but I'm certainly very interested in what this conference is going to discuss, and I'm really eager to learn from all of you and to understand more about this topic. Part, of course, of the interest, the interest of the School of Government in these kind of topics is also shown by the fact that one of the masters of the School of Government is the Islam, master centered on the institutional, political, and economic dimension of Islamic countries, and this is one of the masters that we have created, of course, thanks to Francesca Corrao, exactly because we are very aware of the fact that this dimension is becoming a crucial dimension on a world basis, but also on a European and Italian basis. That being said, let me thank very warmly all the other institutions that have organized this conference, the Research Network Norms and Narratives in the Nordic Countries, the European Council of Moroccan Ulema, the Netherlands Inter-University School for Islamic Studies, the Department of Cross-Cultural Studies at the University of Copenhagen, and the Department of Political Science and International Affairs at John Cabot University. Finally, and let me be, if I may, a bit more personal, I would like to thank the LUISS convener of this conference, Mohammed Hashas. Mohammed was a student of the School of Government before the School of Government existed, because he came here several years ago to study in a Master in European Studies when the School of Government was not existing, but now that Master belongs to the School of Government. So in a way, even though he didn't know it, and I am the director of this Master, I didn't know that at the time we were both working for the School of Government to be. And it is really a pleasure, and I believe it's one of the great achievements for me personally, but for the Master in European Studies more generally, and for the School of Government, of having brought to Italy brilliant students such as Mohammed. That being said, very many Thanks to you all. And I leave the floor to Francesca Corrao.
Okay. Ahlan wa sahlan, assalamu alaikum, marhaba. Thank you very much for coming. It is a great honor for me as director of the Master Mislam. It's that I am really achieving an important result because the aim of our master is to put in the condition of having a dialogue between culture, Western and Eastern, and fantastic fly. It's making fun of me. And in fact, we are teaching rule law, European rule law, and Islamic law, and of course, institutions of the Islamic countries, and economy and financial themes, which are so important for the future of a European community that has within itself a community that is a plural community with respect to their origins and with respect to the rule of law of the place where they are producing and giving their rich contribution to the empowerment of this wonderful area where we live. Of course, faith is extremely important. Faith is what our parents give us, and so it is, let's say, a major identitarian element in our formation. So if we really want to have 100% full European citizens, these citizens, they don't have to feel half a citizen because they belong half to a community and half to another. It should be a richness, not something less for all of us. And since religion, as an Eastern philosopher, Isaac Queda, is saying, but we all agree with that, it is there to help us to win over the major sufferance of birth, disease, growth, and death. Is of course religion extremely important, not only for the public life, but especially for the private life, which is supporting us facing difficulties in times of crisis like the one we're living now. And give me the chance, just 2 words, and I'll be very short, but because I was majoring in Middle East history, literature, and culture, and especially Middle Age topics. And of course, I am very proud to remind you that the Islamic community in Spain and in Sicily, that is the place where I come from, gave a real important heritage to the European community before it even existed, the idea. And it's not only mathematics, biology, chemistry, and so forth, as everybody knows, not only philosophy, because we always mention only philosophy, but also poetry. And of course, unfortunately, what we remember of the Middle Age is only pirates and crusades. The same thing is what's going on today. Our media, our institutions are just concentrating on the negative, which there are, of course. I mean, there are difficulties. We cannot just hide ourselves behind a finger. But it is also true that an important community of serious workers are giving their life for our European community. So we really owe them a lot. And we also owe a lot to the artists who are living in Europe and are making richer our tradition. We will see the result maybe in 50 years, 100 years, but they are there working, and we should also keep them into account. What is interesting anyway to remember is not only is that we are facing with a growing and serious racism atmosphere all over, which is a real shame. Notwithstanding this small minority of extremists, it is also true that Europe, since 50 years, is for the first time having the opportunity to show to their own citizens that we are able of changing from a community, like especially the Italian one, that has always been only Catholic, to a community that is hosting people coming from different ethnical and religious areas. And we should say that our institution are trying to do their best in order to cope with differences. And what our master Muslim is trying to do is to train a young generation of people used to learn how important is Islamic culture, religion, institution, and how to face the problems that day by day we are going to face. And I'm very, very great to all of you, because it is extremely important also to have a comparison with what has been achieved in terms of laws, agreements, positive or negative, all over Europe, in order to advance together in creating a better atmosphere for our future students and citizens. And just to conclude, of course, I am aware that there are many difficulties, because sometimes there are principles of the Islamic law which are not fully in agreement with the rule of law in Europe. And being a woman, of course, I am absolutely convinced of the fact that women must be given fully equality of rights. And of course, the way we give these rights has to be agreed upon and has not been imposed. This is also another important thing to keep in mind. And what I think that is in this extremely sad moment of our history, for if we consider what's going on in North Africa and in Middle East, it is extremely important to cooperate and work together in order to reduce the risk of extremism and improve the cooperation of people of goodwill in order to create a better society with rights and duties for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, professors. I'm very pleased to see an idea coming through after exactly a year when it first came out. I thank you all very much for being here today. Professor Orsina and Professor Francesca Corrao have already done that, but allow me to thank in person Professor Francesca Corrao for having warmly and substantially welcomed the idea from the very beginning. And it's part of Muslim program and part of tables, lecture series, which take place monthly now in our department. I also thank very much Professor Sebastiano Maffatone, ex-dean of the department, who is not in Italy to join us today, for his very fruitful comments on the earlier draft of the project and his support of it. The same also goes to Professor Leonardo Morlino, Professor Carmela Di Caro, who is with us today, and special thanks to Dr. Lorenzo Valeri for the School of Government, scientific manager of the School of Government, for his great support over the logistics, and to him and to his team. This period is actually delicate because it's midterms exams and professors are busy, so we are still very happy with the availability of the logistics and professors around. I also thank very much my colleagues and students of Arabic and Islamic studies or Mediterranean studies for having contributed to the event with the help for the logistics. That's about LUISS in general. Not to add to what Professor said before. Outside LUISS, I am very happy to say that publicly that I have especially cooperated with my dear Niels Valdemar Vinding over this project, especially since its inception. We shared an office, his office, 2 years ago in Copenhagen, under the supervision and directorship of Professor Jørgen Nielsen, who is with us today, of course. And at the end, at that time, we didn't think that we had such common background and certain interest. It came afterwards. And when the idea was first voiced and shared with Prof. Jørgen Nielsen, he put me in touch again with Niels, and who had the same idea, actually more profoundly, because his postdoc is for 3 years on the Imams of the West, and they got funds for that. So from a narrow scope, we expanded it to what it is now. And we have spent a lot of work working on that together, sometimes late at nights with so many online meetings, the weekends also. So I warmly thank him for all the efforts he has made for the last 11, 12 months. And I thank, of course, Professor Jørgen Nielsen for the great contact he has built over that. My dear Khalid Hajji, an old mentor and friend, if I can say that, has been very embracive and cooperative over the project, also from the beginning. So I thank him again warmly. Jaap de Ruiter, who will be joining us in a while, welcomed the idea also, and with his the NISIS large network in Holland. In Rome, we have Tom Bailey and Michael Driessen from John Cabot University. They have been very supportive with their comments and also the logistics, and we are looking forward to the 7th of November, the day when they hosting us. So thanks to all these. I also thank all the participants. We have 46 speakers and chairs of sessions representing 39 institutions. And we have been able, through the funds from all the institutions, to cover also partially the stay of 12 young scholars, doctoral and postdoctoral students. So that's the word of thanks. As to the conceptual framework, I will not bother with that. It has circulated a couple of times, and I just would like to say that the study of Islamic religious authority in the modern age is not new. It has at least 2 centuries old, but the focus on the imamate is new. Since post-World War, but it's the study on this particular topic is even newer. We'll be listening to all the speakers, debating that and speaking about that and giving a chronological development of that over these 3 days of the conference. But mainly we try to conceptualize the main lines of the conference over the theological political inquiry, and then the sociological anthropological case studies, which are still the dominant ones in what we might call European Islamic studies, or the emerging European Islamic thought, if we can call it so. And then we also have gender authority and the media covered, and state institutions and education on the 3rd day. Well, these are the broad lines of inquiry, and they intertwine, of course. It's hard to put a clear-cut line between these disciplines. This said, I warmly thank you all for your efforts, for having traveled to Rome, for being available. We're looking forward to the event, and thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, professors, and thank you, Mohammed. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Danish and Nordic co-organizers. Firstly, the Nordforsk Research Network on Norms and Narratives in the Nordic Nations, NONA in short, has wanted for some time to explore the institution of imams in the Nordic and Baltic countries. So when Professor Niels told me that Mohammed Hashas was exploring similar issues, he and I began to develop this conference under the title Imams in Western Europe, and Nona pledged to support us financially with transport and dinners. Secondly, we have also had financial support from my own department, the Department of Cross-Cultural and Regional Studies at the University of Copenhagen, where I'm an assistant professor with my Carlsberg Foundation research project on Imams of the West. And you can read much more about both of them on the webpage of the conference. We could not have made ends meet without the support from either the department or the NONA Research Network. However, this conference would have been utterly impossible without the incredible effort and wonderful organization of postdoctoral fellow here at LUISS School of Government, Mohammed Hashas, and I thank you very much. You've brought your great knowledge and curiosity, your vast network, your brilliant social skills, and your never-failing attention to both minute details and to the grand scale, to the planning and execution of this conference. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to our conference and the next 3 days together. Thank you.
Yeah. Khalid? Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Well, on behalf of the Conseil européen des oulémas marocains, it is European Council of Moroccan Ulama, I'd like to thank all of you. First of all, I start with the university, our host, for giving us such a chance to meet and to discuss such an important issue. Then I'd like to thank all the organizers for making this meeting happen. Well, you know, some people would like to speak in terms, or to speak about the end of faith, starting from the point of view that faith cannot but bring conflict and oppose communities of faith to each other. But I think this is one aspect, sociological aspect of faith. But faith can also bring people together and help people communicate with one another. Religion, as you know, stems from religiare, if I'm right, which one of its exceptions means to communicate. So why people belonging to different faiths cannot communicate, I think they can. Well, of course, the question of imams is very tricky, very delicate. It is a challenge. We in the council, we have contributed to train more than 3,000 imams, of each session of about a week, to introduce imams to Western and European reality. And it is a very, very delicate task, not easy at all. So I congratulate you on the choice of the topic, but it is, I'm not expecting to find some clear-cut answers, but just to raise the debate. You know, who is the imam? Of course, we have no clear-cut answer. It depends on the context. To our surprise in Morocco, Morocco is now contributing to train imams from Tunisia. And we found out that there are two different worlds. The imam in Tunisia is not the imam in Morocco, for instance, although we are in the same Islamic world. We found, to our great surprise, to our big surprise, that out of 60 Tunisian imam, only 4 could learn the Quran by heart, which is inconceivable, unbelievable for Moroccans. In Morocco, you have 52,000 mosques, and you have 52,000 imams who learn the Quran by heart. So it is one sine qua non to become an imam. You see, when it comes to Europe, the matter gets worse. You have not only people from the Maghreb region, but you have Turks, you have Pakistanis, you have Egyptians, and you have plenty of other communities. So, who is the imam is a very, very difficult question to answer. It's very tricky. It's not at all easy. And the meaning of imam depends on the wills vying to define it. You know, some people would try to give it, by extension, to give it the imam another role, not only the leader, the person who leads people in prayer, but another role which leads, politically speaking, and in social context, and so on and so forth. So the meaning of imam depends greatly on who is defining its meaning. It's not only a theological issue. You know, it's not only a theological issue, but the imam plays a role, for sure, in framing or in shaping the presence of Islam in Europe. It is something, happening. And he's supposed, so to say, to speak on behalf of God. You know, he speaks on behalf of God for Muslims, God's words. So, of course, imams and history of migration in Europe, you have a very, very, rich, very different geography. For instance, imams in Spain are not imams in Italy, for instance, or in France or in Belgium. This is within the Moroccan community, let alone other communities, other, people coming from other countries. So it's very, very, very hard to, but the discussion is very, very necessary. And the other key word of our meeting is training imams. What do we mean by training imams? What type of training do we want to give to imams? And who is entitled and allowed to train these imams? In this context of conflict of civilization, sometimes we have the impression, some people would say, well, why are you interested in training imams who are supposed to belong to another faith? Who gives you the right to do it? Aren't you infringing upon the realm of sacredness of other faiths? These are some of the reactions that you might encounter when you speak in terms of training imams. So what do we mean by training imams? What type of training are we supposed to give to imams? Some other people will say, well, in this context of conflict of civilization, of course, for those who believe in conflict of civilization, I personally don't believe in such a thing. Civilizations are quite neutral. If there is a conflict, it is between us human beings, and we have to assume our moral responsibility not to fall in the trap of a conflict. We have to assume our moral responsibility and say, no, we are not supposed to spend our life warring against each other. We have to assume our moral responsibility. But for those who believe in conflict of civilization, they would say, well, okay, training imams would imply, for instance, how to dominate the last spiritual stronghold, you know, to influence the discourse, to reform Islam, to make it fit, to make it compatible with Europe. But of course, Muslims live in Europe, and they have to assume a moral responsibility. The question is how to contribute to peace, to order, and help and integrate in the European context. It is a moral responsibility as well. I come across some types of discourse, some people who are blinded to this reality. They come up from outside and they want to impose their mode of thinking and their mode of believing and their faith. So some people would say, well, if they are sitting in a cafe, for instance, and they are not happy because they would have liked to ask everyone about his faith. you know? And they want, my impression is some people want to destroy the existing order in order to give it an Islamic shape, to shape it, to give it an Islamic etiquette. I say this is rubbish, this is nonsense. One of the most important, the most important principles in Islam is tatmim makarim al-akhlaq, is to complement whatever morality you come across. So our duty living in Europe is to complement what is already existing. If I come across the value of democracy, it is a value. If I cannot bring une valeur ajoutée, an added value, then I don't have to destroy democracy because I don't like it. No, my moral duty consists in complementing makarim al-akhlaq. So I don't like to extend on the subject. I just want to say thank you very much for the university and for the organizers for giving us such a wonderful opportunity to discuss this issue, which is, as I said, very, very, very delicate and challenging. And I wish you success, and I'm happy to be here among you. Thank you very much.
It's okay. Well, I have a different name than the one that is mentioned in the program. Jaap de Ruiter, he just entered. I saw him there. My name is Theo Signier. I'm professor of anthropology of religion at the Free University in Amsterdam. And I'm here in the quality of president of the the Netherlands Inter-University Institute for the Study of Islam, which is a cooperation between 9 universities, and it covers the whole range from very sociological issues to very theological. So and through history. So it's very broad, but it's an important network, I would say. Although I'm president, and so I'm biased. And when we heard about this conference, and when there were contacts established, we immediately said, well, of course, this is important. This is part of also of our job. So we were really happy to contribute to the program. And I already thanked the organizers, especially Mohammed Hashas, who's really done a great job. I'm sure. For organizing this conference on a very timely issue. It has been mentioned before, and not just because there is let's say awkward organization in the Middle East now who is claiming authority, and the backlash that has on Muslims in Europe, but also in the Middle East is huge. So it's a very timely issue also because in Europe, I would argue, religious authority, religious leadership is a very vital, a very crucial topic that very much bears on the way Islam takes shape in Europe. And in all countries in Europe, there is a fierce debate going on to what extent European countries should be involved in, for example, the training, or should it be left over to the countries of origin. But it's not just a matter of religious knowledge, it's also a matter of control on who is in charge. And it has to do with the links, the transnational links between countries of origin, the Middle East, the Islamic world, whatever you call it, and Europe. So it's a very, very, very important issue to address. Let me put it. I'm not going into it because I'm here, and that's the pleasure of being a president of an organization. You don't have to do anything, just to say thank you very much for organizing this. But I'm really looking forward, as an academic, to take part in the conference in the coming days. But it's also a great personal pleasure for me to see once again good friends I know already, and I think there's a really good community of scholars growing in Europe. So it's good to be here, and it's good to that we meet once again. it's also, and that's my last point, it's also, well, there's a lot of conferences going on in Islam in Europe. You're probably aware of that. But I think a topic like this, a very focused topic of this conference on imams, on religious authority, is, I think, a next stage, and it's really important to set an agenda and not having another conference on Islam here and there and everywhere, but really say, well, we go a step further and we really go into more focused issues. So I'm really grateful not only for organizing this conference, but also to set an agenda. And again, thank you for this, and I'm looking forward to a good conference.